Hello there. Welcome to this special edition of our program, Let Biafrans Speak. This is Showbox Africa, and before we dive in deep into what we have for you in today's video, please make sure you subscribe to support our channel. South Sudan, a case study for the Biafran successful secession movement. Why Biafrans meets all the United Nations requirements to secede from Nigeria. My name is Nnamdi and I still remain your humble soldier. Today, we'll be having a comprehensive discussion on an important topic, secession, and what it takes for a nation to secede from another nation. And we'll be looking precisely on how the Republic of Southern Sudan, the newest country in the world, was able to gain the recognition of the United Nations and the international communities, whom with their support and the Southern Sudan its independence in July 2011 after having won the referendum. But before we get into that, we will first be looking at the criteria, the requirements or points a nation who intended to secede from another nation must earn in order to be eligible for a successful secession. For the sake of those who may not understand, and may be asking, what have these got to do with the struggle for the independence of Biafrans? Yes, it has a lot to do with the IPOB movement, the struggle we have been on for over a decade, which its aims and objectives is simple: to free the indigenous people of Biafra, who are the people of the eastern geographical region of Nigeria, from bondage. The people of Biafra have been denied a certain degree of autonomy since Nigeria gained her independence in the year 1960. And as a result, the country went into serious turmoil, which saw a lot of coups and counter-coups until the 1966 Aburi Accord Agreement, which was aimed at establishing some degree of autonomy as requested by the eastern region, and was later abandoned by Nigerian government the same year that saw Nigeria into the Nigerian Biafran Civil War. The aim of today's video is to encourage our people towards our consistency and incentivize our hopes from the point of our physical reality. You and I wouldn't want to get involved in an endless struggle. Biafra must be actualized in our time, so to end the suffering, the anguish, the gnashing of teeth, the frustration of the Igbos and the entire Biafrans who have been subjected to a state of restlessness, panic, and frustration since we got involved in the union with Nigeria. Many of us Biafrans think that we would be able to escape the predicaments and sufferings when you travel abroad. However, the first thing you realize once you travel abroad is the importance of having a homeland, a nation of your own. That is, a place its structures were formed to accept you for who you are, nurture you, and favor you as a citizen. So basically, a system its missions are to protect your interest. Remember, we're still on secession and what it takes for a nation to successfully secede from another nation. Now let's get into it. What makes a nation a nation? A nation is formed on the basis of territory, history, ethnicity, or a common culture, which may as well include religion. One of the reasons why Nigeria will keep failing is because Nigeria doesn't want us to define the kind of Nigerians we wanted to be. Therefore, we refuse to blend into a country where our cultures, dignities, and our ethnic differences are not respected or recognized. The Biafrans value their culture, their languages, their originalities, their identities, and so on. So do Yorubans, the Hausans, and the rest of the world. Ndị be anyị na-akpọ ya ọdịbendị, and they say ọdịbendị dịịrị ha. So this means the things that made you who you are your uniqueness, our uniqueness. and no one can forcefully take them away from you. If there was anything wrong with our culture, it's left for us, who are the indigenous people of Biafra, to amend them because it's our concern. You can't just wake up one day and say, "Hey, Igbo man, from today you will leave whatsoever that makes you an Igbo man and blend into a one Nigeria," without properly addressing the cultural and the ethnic differences, the degree of autonomies they should rightfully exercise. And from today, the Fulani cattle headers have the right to rear cows on your farmland, and you will have to allow them because we are one Nigeria. So therefore, people will trample on your foot because we are one Nigeria. And most of the time I overhear people saying on the interview or on the public stations that the problem we have in Nigeria is the way we identify ourselves. Some people see themselves as Igbos, some people see themselves as Yorubas, Hausas, and so on. For God's sake, that's who we are. We can abandon our identities just because of one Nigeria. It's a violation on our human right. So preferably, a secession would be the best option, so that what's between Nigeria and Biafra would be an international relationship where both countries are two separate independent nations. This would be quite understandable because there are obviously international laws and bodies that govern foreign engagement, businesses, and investments. So, let's get into today's video. As I said earlier, we'll be looking at what it takes for a new country to be made. As we agitate for the sovereign state of Biafra, we must be open to understand that it's a process and it has a procedure. Secession is a term used to describe the act of withdrawing from a larger entity, a group, an ethnicity, or a region. A typical example of secession is what happened in Slovakia in 1993, when a revolution which started in 1989 led to the independence of Slovakians from the Czech Republic. And today, the United Nations recognized them as two independent nations. Slovakians seceded from the Czech Republic. We all know about Serbia and Montenegro as a nation. I can remember those days they were in the World Cup. But today, they are separate nations. Serbia is now a country and Montenegro as well. A lot of new countries have emerged in recent years, and they were able to go through what we call secession, as it simply means when a smaller entity or a group withdraws from a larger one on a ground of self-determination, just like the Biafrans for many years have been stalked in Nigeria, and today we are agitating for self-determination. So this is why we want to dig deep on this topic in today's video. Because as we move along our journey, we may be questioned if we have all it takes to be an independent nation. And with the help of internet research, we are able to bring this information to you on SOUthern Africa. Now, from the point of our reality, what does it take for a nation to succeed from another nation? What will it take Biafrans to succeed from Nigeria, to pull out, to become an independent state from Nigeria? So basically, how are new countries created? How did nations like Serbia, Montenegro, South Sudan, and others who were recently granted autonomy by United Nations, how were they able to do that? What are required of nations who want to succeed from another? To discuss this topic and answer these questions, we will analyze the newest country in the world as our case study for today, South Sudan. The Republic of South Sudan became a nation of its own after winning a referendum on July 2011. We can't forget that the Southern Sudan has been in 50 years of war and serious conflict with the Sudanese government, which started immediately after the Sudanese independence in 1956. The question is, what were they able to do to precisely gain the recognition of the United Nations? How did they do that? What are the lessons to be learned in comparison to the case of the Biafran successful secession from Nigeria? The aim is to ensure that we remain at the safer side, and as well to bring on this information to our people of Biafra, to fully understand our stance from the point of our objectives and physical reality. After a thorough research on Southern Sudanese successful secession from the Sudan government, I decided to share my findings in this video. And basically, it's a great news for the Biafrans. However, this is to strengthen our people towards having a clearer understanding of the journey and what it takes to reach our destination, which I think is nearer. All these nations who recently seceded from their parent nations had the same things in common, which is dissatisfaction in a nation's failed leadership, unfair and unequitable treatment among their groups, ethnicities, and citizens, not being able to preserve their culture and identity, and therefore their identities and dignities has not been recognized or respected, and as well some historical justification that they have been self-governing themselves before the colonial amalgamations. So that brings us to the big questions. Are these reasons great enough to give you a nation? Let's look at some of the requirements and points a nation who intend to secede from another nation must aim in order to have a successful secession. According to the United Nations International Court of Justice, for a nation to secede from another nation, that nation must fulfill these criteria. Number 1. A nation who wants to secede from another nation must have an established cultural group. This is really the most important part because it begins with a mass movement whose aims are to gain independence and to become a sovereign state. So basically, for a nation to succeed from another nation, you need your people alongside. These are people who share a particular territory of the geographical location of the country, a core set of belief, pattern of behavior, and values. It doesn't really matter if they are a small or a large group. What matters is that they are identified by their ways of lives, ways of thinking and behaving. That reminds me of what Nnamdi Kanu always said when asked about the areas included in the Biafran territory. He says, those areas in Ijaw, Ibibio, where their women tied to wrappers, and so on. He was absolutely right. So, how were Southern Sudan able to scale through this point? They were able to end this point through the SPLA, which was a military wing of the Southern Sudanese Army, and SPLM, which was established in 1983 after the Sudanese government abandoned the Addis Ababa agreement between the Sudanese government and the Anyanya leader, Joseph Lagu, who represented the Southern Sudanese. The SPLA and the SPLM were the cultural group that led the people of the Southern Sudan to independence. The SPLM stands for the Sudanese People Liberation Movement. The SPLA stands for the Sudanese People Liberation Army. The second point on the list of what a nation needs to put in place in order to secede from another nation is the history of being institutionally marginalized. So basically, this nation that is agitating for independence must have to clear every reasonable doubt by providing a strong evidence of unjust and discriminatory maltreatment of the people of their region by the society and its institution as a whole. So, you can see that this is serious. The story of Southern Sudan wasn't an easy one. Tracing it back from when the Sudanese government gained her independence in the year 1956, The southern states were unhappy with their lack of autonomy. This led to tension boiling over into a serious fighting and civil war immediately after the independence. The war lasted until 1972, when the southern states were promised a degree of self-government by the Sudanese government. Then, in 1983, the civil war started again after the Sudanese government cancelled the autonomy arrangements. The fighting was on until January 9, 2005. The SPLA, the SPLM, and the government of Southern Sudan signed a comprehensive peace agreement that ended the civil war. So basically, from their story, you can see that they had a very clear and concise evidence of an institutionalized marginalization, from what led to the First Civil War in 1956 to the Second Civil War in 1983. So that brings us to the point number 3. A nation must end in order to secede successfully. An independent representative system of government. This is another great and important point. The big question remains, how did South Sudan end this point? The Southern Sudanese were able to end this point after the Second Civil War, which ended in a comprehensive peaceful agreement that gave birth to the formal establishment of a representative body of the South Sudan in the Sudanese government, agreed by both parties as they were eager to seek for a peaceful resolution in January 9, 2005. So what it means in our own case is that Nigerian government will officially and formally endorse IPOB as a representative body of the Eastern region. In my opinion, I think this is possible in a negotiation. The point number 4 to end in order to secede from another nation is an economic means to establish and protect the newly created states without bankrupting the other states or nation you intend to pull out from. Now listen to it again. An economic means to establish and protect the newly created states without bankrupting the other states or the nation you intend to pull out from. Now, this is a bit complex when the states clamoring for self-determination is the major source of the national economy, like we have it in Nigeria and many other parts of Africa, even in Sudan, which is our case study. Now, let's look at what South Sudan did precisely to end this point. After the peaceful agreement was reached that ended the civil war in 2005, a plan was created for oil revenue splitting between the North and the South, and as well a plan for federal job sharing nationwide. The same 2005 agreement led to the formal recognition of the Southern Sudanese autonomy. So basically, the SPLM joined the government as part of the 2005 peace agreement, gaining about 1/3 of government positions. Furthermore, as part of the agreement also stated that after 6 years of autonomy, the South will vote in a referendum to determine their position in the movement for self-determination. The point number 5 to end in order to successfully secede from another nation is a proof that secession is the only way forward, which means there is no other option or a better alternative to secession. This point was well earned by Southern Sudan following the nation's state of disagreement, 50 years of conflict, all-out wars, and unrest situation in the region. It was very clear that secession was the only better option. After a nation must have earned all the above-mentioned points, to proceed with secession, you will still need the point number 6, which is the final. A wide range of support among your cultural group and region, a comparable support from the nation you live in, a support from the international community. This point will be determined by the process of referendum, after your nation must have earned the 5 points listed above. Luckily for South Sudan, all they did actually fell in place. They were able to remain in Sudan for another 6 years, as stated in the 2005 peaceful agreement. Then, on the 9th of July 2011, they won their right to secede after a secession referendum was voted earlier that month, and the result was astonishing. Almost 99% of registered voters in the South Sudan voted for secession, and almost 58% of registered voters in the North voted for it as well. And later that month, the United Nations officially recognized South Sudan as its own nation. So basically, from the point of reality, from what has been obtainable in the past and in recent years, and as well, the due process stated by the United Nations International Court of Justice. These are the points a nation needed to earn in order to successfully secede from another nation. An established cultural group. A history of being institutionally marginalized by the country you are seceding from. An independent representative system of government. An economic means to establish and protect the newly created state without bankrupting the other states or the nation you intend to pull out from. A proof that secession is the only way forward, that there are no other better alternatives. And finally, a wide range of support from your cultural group. A comparable support from the nation you live in, and an international community support. So that is it for today. Biafra would as well need all these points in order to successfully secede from Nigeria. As we are relentlessly moving towards self-determination, which we have the absolute right to exercise, and as long as we believe that we must need the international community, the United Nations interference to our endless problems and sufferings in Nigeria, it is very important to understand what we've got and what we haven't got, just to ensure the good fight we are fighting, the fight for our freedom, the fight for our liberation from bondage, which has been valid, remain consistently valid by continuously putting in place the necessary measurable actions that has been obtainable by other nations who were once in the same struggle, like that of our African brother, the Republic of South Sudan. Before I conclude, I want to say this. I'm not a man of great intelligence. I'm not in any way the mouthpiece or the ordained speaker of the indigenous people of Biafra. However, the aim of this video is to humbly chip in some information I think we might be needing along the way to help enlighten some of our people who hadn't the opportunity to make an internet research based on our course. These opinions were backed up by a comprehensive research, and anyone could do the same. This will be the end of today's video. In our next video, we'll be comparing and spotting some similarities of the Southern Sudan struggles from the 1956 to 2005, which was before the peaceful agreement that gave birth to their successful secession in the year 2011. We'll be comparing them to the case of Biafra from 1966 to date. This is to gain a clearer understanding of what is facing us. I hope to have you again on the second part of this program. Question of the day. If South Sudan was able to earn all these points to successfully secede from the government of Sudan, what is the stance of Biafra? Which of the points don't we have? Which of the points do you think would be the most difficult to earn? What do you think would be our greatest obstacles? Kindly drop your comment down below. We will be responding as fast as possible. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe to support our channel. If possible, smash the notification bell to be able to get notified on any new video we upload. Still, your humble, able, gallant soldier, Nnamdi saying, See you in the next video. Have a blissful day. Peace.